Hello YouTube. This is my first video in what feels like forever, and I'm gonna try to post stuff fairly regularly. But anyway, I just wanted to share my ongoing new build and my paint job on my Lian Li PC-O11 Dynamic, the non-XL version. So anyway, oops, I still got a little bit of masking tape right here. So this is the 011 in the white, and I'm gonna do a Ryzen build. And so I wanted the white aesthetic for the outside of the case, but I just didn't want the interior to be white. My plan is to do a custom water cooling loop for probably both the CPU and GPU, and maybe dual loops with the rigid tubing, and it'll be my first time using that. So I didn't want a plain case. I thought I had to do something to change it up. And so since Ryzen uses kind of a red and orangish logo, the way I painted this is I primed the inside and then did a base layer of Rust-Oleum, like gold metallic, and then glitter red over top of that, and then a couple coats of clear. So you can see, like, I wasn't worried about getting it like pure, like really precise and consistent, because I wanted in some spots more of the gold to show through. And then of course, some spots I wasn't worried at all because the motherboard's going to cover that. Sorry for the bad lighting. This is just on my workbench here. But anyway, so some of this on the bottom will be visible. This part here, that'll be visible. The back, decent amount of that will be visible. So I just wanted something a little bit different. I'm gonna spend a lot of time and energy on this, so I didn't want to just have the same old plain Jane white case. I'm still up in the air about how I'm going to do the loops, because I'm considering actually using this space here to mount a radiator, because there's a couple companies that make 80 millimeter radiators, and even like a dual 80 millimeter, and this space between here and the top of the case would fit one of those dual 80s perfectly. And so that would allow me to kind of further have a little bit of a custom flavor to the case. I got a Dremel metal cutting bit so that I can take out some of these metal pieces here to open that up for airflow. And from what I go back quite a ways with PC modding and PC building and whatnot, and I think with the dual 80 millimeter, or basically it's a 160 millimeter radiator, I think that'll be fine for cooling a Ryzen. So which I'm probably just going to get a 3000 series initially while I wait for the 4000 to come out. But there you can see, so the back, the top's still white. Of course, I've still got the plastic protective stuff on the aluminum front panel. I still have a little bit of cleanup to do, but for the most part, I mean, you can see it's white where it's supposed to be white. It's red where it's supposed to be red. And also, I'm not going to do much RGB. I've got Crucial Ballistics DDR4 3600 RAM, which was sitting around here somewhere on my messy workbench, but I wasn't really looking for RGB, but it just happened to be RGB RAM, and so I bought it. But I'm going to use these Enermax fans that I had used in another build where I used an 011 Dynamic, and I had them on the bottom kind of tilted up, raised up a little bit, and I used this kind of pearlescent vinyl to cover this part, and I cut out with an X-Acto knife, cut out all these holes so that air could be pulled in, and then the air would blow over my video card and the chipsets and whatnot. And that was a black case though, but the white LEDs and the fans against that pearlescent vinyl on the bottom looked really cool. And so this time, I've got 3 of those Enermax fans. They're the 120 millimeter cluster fans, they're called. and I'm not sure if I'll put those on the bottom again, if they'll go on the sides here, if I'll use them for radiators or just use them as intake or exhaust fans here. I'm going to get them, I'm going to mount them in different places and just kind of see how things go. One of the problems with this case is when you put if you get a full-size ATX motherboard, you can see the mounts are way down here, so the motherboard will go almost to the bottom of the case. And then if you try to put a radiator, or even just putting 120 millimeter fans in here, which, let me grab one real quick. Shoot, I think that's a 140 actually. No, maybe that is a 140. No, it's a 120. Okay, so if you put a 120 millimeter fan right here, and then your motherboard is coming down here, and then you're trying to plug in like your audio, front panel USB, the motherboard, the front panel connectors, it can be a real pain in the butt depending on the motherboard. So then think about it, if you wanted to put a radiator down here and you're going to raise the fans up a little bit more, it basically would prevent you from even plugging in your front panel headers, or your front panel connectors. So I might do something where I put the fans outside the case, blowing down, so basically sucking air through the radiator, if I choose to mount a radiator down here, but basically sucking air down through the radiator and out the bottom of the case. Problem is, I don't have the feet on this right now because I took it off for painting, but I don't think the feet raise the case up more than the thickness of a 120 millimeter fan. So even though you have that space down there, it's almost kind of useless unless you have a micro ATX motherboard that stops up here. Then this is fine, but I'm getting an MSI X570 full ATX board, so it's definitely going to come down to this level. So that's where the XL case would come in handy, because one of the things it does is adds some space down in the bottom, so you actually have a little bit more room to work. But I'd used this case before in black, and I'd always wanted white, so I got the white one, and I'm going to try to do a build in there. So theoretically, I think I have the space I need for my custom loops. Like I said, I think I'm really gonna seriously consider putting that 160 millimeter radiator back here, because then I can just do the rigid tubing just straight over and to the water block for the CPU right here, and maybe use a radiator in the top for that, and then the reservoir pump combo would have to go down at the bottom, and then put the radiator for the GPU either up in here or right here. So it's a work in progress, and until I start getting more of the parts in, I'm not going to know for sure. Which right now it's hard to find the parts I want, so a lot of it's a waiting game. Anyway, that's just kind of an update on what I'm doing right now, and hopefully you guys like the case, like the paint job. I'm no expert. I did this out in my driveway, in my garage, and like I said, it's really just to make the case a little bit more unique and just, kind of one of a kind. So that's the start of the build anyway. Thanks, everyone.